If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Today, I have a special guest. I'm doing the foundations of Lambert. Where did all this start? Where did all the programs start? And last week I had a great guest last month, and you guys, I know you're going to love it. And now I have a new guest,
That's
Andrew Rowan. Welcome to Lambert House Documentary, The Spotlight. And you, sir, are in the spotlight today. How are you?
I'm good, and I thank you for having me here.
Oh, I thank you for being here. You guys tell some great stories. I've heard stories about you already. So yes, okay. I am happy to have you here. And you are one of the founders of TIPS, right? You started TIPS.
Basically, yeah, I was there from the beginning.
From the beginning, yes. If for those who don't know, TIPS turned into, if I'm not mistaken, Lambert House, like all the community stuff, because throughout the years, they have had a lot of community activities and things for young people and old people and everybody to venture into. So, but you were there from the beginning. So when did you start? When was your first introduction to TIPS?
Okay, for me, it actually started way back in 1971. Lambert wasn't even built then. It was a proposal. And I can remember that because I went to a meeting and they were talking about, and they showed the plans to build Lambert. So out of that came the idea from a woman by the name of Susan Boyd that they wanted to add another component. And that component was TIP Recreation.
Okay.
So behind that, at the same time they were building Lambert in the early 70s, what they Phipps Houses decided to do was to put up a basketball court on 181st Street and Vice Avenue.
Okay.
And at that point in time, I was selected to be what they called the basketball commissioner. Okay, so I ran the tournament way back then. And then when they built Lambert, which came under Phipps development, the park was incorporated into it. So to give some of the youth something to do, they asked me to create a basketball tournament. Now, along with that, around about that time also, Arthur Cryer came into the picture. In fact, I introduced him to Susan Boyd, but I had known Arthur since 1968. So Arthur, along with Susan Boyd, started putting the whole TIP recreation thing together. He was a very big instrument to that. So the basketball tournament became the focal point for where people would come, watch the games. And we were one of the first ones that started having a DJ out in the park after the basketball games. Nobody else was doing it. And the tournament was to give the youth something to do because everybody was playing basketball. But as I said, we were one of the first ones to bring the females in. In fact, a lot of tournaments didn't have females. Females were starting to emerge. So we created a whole division for the females. And as I had stated, was one of the things that we did do was we invited basketball coaches to come. And they came there, and to the best of my recollection, well over 22 basketball players, male and female, ended up signing to play on the college level.
Wow.
Yeah. And quite a few of them, including Billy Goodwin, who lived in Lambert.
Oh, Billy Goodwin that's my brother. That's my best friend's brother. So yes,
well, I was
on the show.
I was Billy's coach back when he was 11 years old.
He's gonna love this. Yes.
Oh yeah. Billy Goodwin, Hugo King, all of these guys, they played for me. Okay. They played for me. And again, we're going back to the early 70s. In fact, I sent to Hercules pictures that he put on Facebook, showing Billy's and all of them. That was out of my photo album. Wow. So you're talking about over 40 something odd years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I also watched them build Lambert. I watched them from the very beginning, building Lambert. Wow. And one of the good things that came out of Lambert was one of the young ladies that lived there ultimately became my wife.
Oh, well, that's really great. That's one of the best things, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, she lives in 1013 in Lambert. And
what's her name?
Linda Wade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really, really great.
Well, her younger sister actually went to school with Billy and all of them.
Okay.
Her name was Jacqueline Wade.
Okay.
So, and I end up knowing a lot of people in Lambert.
Okay.
So
what was there before? Not to cut you off. Before they built Lambert, what was on that ground?
it was just a big open lot. That's all it was. There was really nothing there. That was one of the best things they could do when they built Lambert. And that's why it pains me now to, when I drive over there, you see that a lot is gone. They've made some changes. I don't know how down the road, how that's going to impact the residents that are there now. But I'm glad that people like Hercules and Rod are doing what they're doing to preserve that memory, because in reality, that's all we have. And also in doing that, it brings back to people who are no longer here.
Yeah.
Some people who've passed on for various different reasons. But I feel proud of what the TIP tournament did, because it became one of the most productive tournaments in the Bronx, if not the city. And Billy was he was our shining example. I mean, the man made it to All-American, and we were proud of him. We were proud of him when it showed up in newspapers. And my claim to fame with Billy is I worked for Talent Search. What we were doing was trying to get kids in college. So Billy really didn't have that problem because all the colleges want him. But Billy would come to my office 2 to 3 times a week, and we would just sit down and talk. And a lot of it wasn't even about basketball. It was about life and where he saw himself in the next 5 to 10 years. And the ironic thing about it was Billy had a lot of forethought on what he wanted to do with his life. He said, suppose I don't make the NBA. And we always talked about that. For a young man who at the time was only 17, he had a lot of vision and forethought on where he saw his life. And the other thing I used to like about Billy and a lot of the kids in Lambert, the older ones, was that they were always giving something back. They get with the young kids, get out on the court, talk to them. And I was proud of that. And I was proud of what the TIP tournament did for the community.
I will have Billy on my show soon.
Okay.
I have to have him on my show. And,
oh yes, you have to.
And he was here, and I wasn't able to get him on. But I'm very, Billy was is like a brother to me, the brother that I never had, So
yeah, every time he's on Facebook or something, or if he's in the city, he'll send me a message and say he still calls me coach.
Nice.
Because one of the things I also did, and this is where Arthur Cryer came in, was I used to take a lot of the kids to colleges to play against their teams. And consequently, 14 of my players ended up getting scholarships.
Wow.
Yes.
Now that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a big deal right there.
Yeah, and I was proud of that. And a number of them ended up getting college degrees.
Nice.
Well, I always felt like you had to give something back because someone put an arm around me to help me. And it was a commitment on my part. So I enjoyed it. And then just having a community out there was no fighting and all of that. People enjoyed the games. They look forward to it.
Right. Oh.
So those are the memories that I have.
And those things that that went on those things went on for many, many years.
Yeah.
Years. You guys created something that, in me growing up, my experience was we had so many shows and basketball games, and that came from you guys. That was the foundation that you built.
Yeah, the talent shows that Arthur Cryer put together. I remember them. I helped them with them. They had so many acts that we had the school, and we had so many acts. We'd be there till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Things now they go crazy about because I give shows like you got to get out of there at a certain time. They
oh yeah,
shut you down. So what was your experience with Mr. Arthur Cryer?
Oh, Arthur Cryer. I first met Arthur Cryer in 1968. Yes, that's how far we go back. And at the time, Arthur, because a lot of people don't realize, Arthur was an accomplished musician himself and a songwriter. He worked for Motown. And I met him through one of his sons. And I was given, in fact, I was given a talent show, and I asked him, would he help me with it? And he said, sure. And behind that was in 1969. And then after that, Arthur started giving talent shows, and I would be there with him. And the house band was a band called the Rhythm Makers, which eventually became GQ. So that's how far back I go with it.
Wow.
In fact, Raheem LeBlanc, who was the lead singer for GQ, started singing at a block party in 1969 that Arthur Cryer gave.
Wow.
He used to sit on the stoop, and his father wouldn't let him go too far. So the block party was in his block, and he asked Arthur, could he sing?
Wow.
And Arthur introduced him to his son Sabu and the rest of them, and they became the Rhythm Makers.
Wow.
And then Arthur got them into becoming the house band. And then they expanded, and next thing you know, long story short, they became GQ, had that disco night that was a million seller.
Yep.
And his son came up to Tip Park with the gold record.
Wow.
Yes. And we gathered around, we were proud of them. Anytime you had people like that stood out from the community, and they came back. And that's what I loved about Billy. He always came back. He was an All-American, but he was a down-to-earth person. He never let his ego get in the way. And he would help me a lot of times with the younger kids. Wow. And that's why I would always love that about him.
Yeah. Billy is quite amazing.
Yes.
So when did you leave off with Tips? Then he turned it over to Phipps. Like when did you start working with them?
I started working with Tip in basically around about 1971, 72.
Okay.
Like I said, I watched them build Lambert. I saw the plans for it. So when I started working for them, which was during the basketball tournament, I did that for on about maybe 6-7 years. And then I went to work for Tip Talent Search, which what we did was get the kids into colleges. And I really enjoyed that because it brought a lot of kids in the community, kids who didn't think they had a shot at getting to college. We did that for them. We told the colleges, listen, these kids have certain needs. They need tutoring in certain areas. And I used to tell them, if I'm sending one of my ball players to you, I want him to have a tutor because he is lacking in certain areas. And I want to be successful because the NBA is not for everybody.
Right.
So it was important to me that these kids not go just to play ball, but to learn to have educational skills that they would need one day in life. And that became, to me, the cornerstone of what I was doing.
That's awesome. They really need to have more programs like that today. It's so many young people.
And you know something, and I agree with you, because what we're having now is going on now is the lack of kids having essential services. They don't have the big brothers and the big sisters to put an arm around them. That's what happened with me. Somebody put an arm around me to point me in the right direction. So when I got to a point, that became important to me. And all during my college years, I tried to do what I can for the community because I was one of them. But as I said, someone took the time to help me. So I felt it was just a natural generational thing that I try to give back as much as I could. My biggest fear is that the children that we don't love, nurture, and protect today will be the children that we're going to fear tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Because the thing is, our children today, they have the wrong kind of role models. Okay? Gang banging, drug dealing. This is their role models. They're missing the Arthur Cryers, the people who applied themselves to community and did it from their heart. and not looking for anything in return. Like Booker T. Briggs and myself, we all gave to the community because we were part of that community. And I also realized, and here's one facet that I don't know if you're aware of, but I was a New York City correction officer for 21 years on Rikers Island.
Right, so you've seen it from
oh yes, I did.
A whole different angle, right?
And unfortunately, I've seen people who were friends of mine. I've seen people who played in my basketball tournament coming through. And I would, no matter what they did, when they were there, I tried to sit down and talk to them because I was also the president of the Guardians, which was the Black Officers Association.
Okay.
So one of the things I would do is I tell a lot of these young men, okay, you locked up, you made a mistake. The first time is a mistake. The second time is stupidity, that you should know better. So I tried to say, listen, when you get out of here, there's something else you can do with your life. You don't have to come here because jail will always be here.
Yeah.
And they don't have a problem with putting us in here.
That's just so true.
So that further committed myself. So I just felt like I had to do these things because, again, as I said, someone did it for me. Someone put an arm around me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And this is what these kids need. They need somebody to give them that push, to not give up on them.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate also that one of my closest friends is currently the New York City mayor.
Well, I need to speak to Mr. Adams. I need to speak to Mr. Adams. I have a lot to say to Mr. Adams.
I bet you do. But I know you might as well take a number because it's going to be long.
No. I think so far you can't really judge. So far, some things he did.
Yeah. Well,
great.
You know what it is? It's a learning process. Yes. He's learning too.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, because he's a city product, he's a kid from here. He came up here.
Absolutely.
And I think that adds a lot. He didn't come from Iowa or Kansas. He was born and bred right here in the city of New York. Absolutely. So he knows a lot of the problems. Is he going to make mistakes? Yes, he is. But I think overall, he's going to do a pretty good job. I do.
I am hoping so because like you, I was going to actually, I really want someone to really focus on these programs and these after school programs. They work. I've been working with kids for 20 something years, young people. And in my experience, the young people that engage in programs and after school,
yes,
they become successful. And a lot of times the kids that don't, they are lost. So I hope him as being a mayor, he puts a lot of emphasis on that because it's really, really important to have programs, outreach programs in the community. Even I was listening to someone on, I think it was Al Sharpton today, and it was talking about a 24-hour community center, because not just the high school level kids, but the young adults to go somewhere. Maybe if they had a basketball court open, maybe they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
do times at night. I don't know, but I do know that when you have something that young people can engage in, and not just, like I said, not just teenagers, young adults,
Well, you know something? One of the things that Eric had already spoke about that he's going to do, he's going to bring back the opportunity for kids to work in the summer. Remember back in the day, had the neighborhood youth corps and all that? Well, remember all that was gone because at a point in time, they cut the monies out. But those things are what those kids need. Yeah. And Eric he's earmarking a certain amount of money to start bringing those programs back. To me, that's a good first step. Absolutely. He's going to bring in people to engage with the kids in the community, which a lot of these politicians, they'll do that for a soundbite, but then when the cameras are gone, they're gone. Yeah. And all the promises they made become empty.
Yeah.
And kids remember when you tell them you're going to do something and you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a kid listening to a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of promise for Eric. There's a lot he has to do, and he's well aware of it.
Yeah.
But I think people like yourself and Hercules and Rod, the things y'all are doing, and keeping the whole Lambert idealism still around, I think that's wonderful. And when Rod told me about it and Herc told me about it, I was on board.
Yeah.
And that's when I went and dug up that album.
Yeah, Yeah, I love those pictures. I'm gonna put some of them up. Yeah, it is amazing, and to have you on, and to have Mr. Briggs on, it, you know, and I have a couple of other people they tell a different kind of story, because I've been having people on telling their experience, which is wonderful. But to have you guys from the beginning, because when I interviewed Mr. Briggs, I didn't know things like that TIPS was not really a first in Lambert, you know, because when I was a part of TIPS, as I remember, it was in Lambert. And just to tell the whole history, and I didn't know how much Arthur Cryer was such a big impact, and he was TIP. I didn't know that, and I knew because he inspired me. I wouldn't, you know, and I tell my story all the time. I really wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for him. The time and energy that he put into me as a young person, and I saw what he did, and it made me say, you know, as I grew up in life, some things happen, you don't even know why they happen. And then one day I had to sit back and say, this is why I do this. And it was installed in me to have community stuff and dance classes and talent shows. I've given so many talent shows, and just, it was because what I saw growing.
I remember when Arthur Cryer's daughter had the dances.
Yeah.
The African dance.
I was a dancer. I learned.
All right, I thought so.
How to dance. I learned how to do this.
Okay.
I was a dancer. Okay. I went to their program.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly. And you know, I want to say this. I worked with a program called Teens in Motion a couple of years ago. This program didn't have no money. And this was the most successful program I have ever worked with.
Okay.
They had no money. All they needed was the space of a school. They had so many kids every night. To me, that's success, because it's success when you can have so many kids interested in your program, that they are consistent and they are dedicated. That's success. They would have 30 kids, 35 kids every single night.
One of the things I tried to do was with my ball players, I made it clear, if you want to play on my team, I got to see your report card. I want to see how you're doing in school. Not everyone is going to make the NBA.
Right.
You're not 6'9". You don't play that well. What are you going to do in life? So one of the things that I would do, if a kid is failing, I'd go to the school and talk to the assistant principal. Is it possible you can arrange for this young man or young lady to get a tutor? Can you help them out? And it was effective. And the kids responded to it, because they saw what I was trying to do. What I'm saying is, this going to open the door for you to get to college and maybe get a degree and maybe get a decent job, and you be able to give back to the community and to the world. You would be an impact. Yeah. So also what I did was I told my older players, take a younger person underneath your wing. Yeah. Sort of like what the Rucker does, each one teach one.
Yeah.
And one of the one that really grasped onto us was Billy. Yeah. Without me even telling him, because he was Billy Goodwin, a lot of kids gyrated around him, but he would always tell the kids, yeah, I play ball, but he says, I'm more proud when I got my high school diploma. Mm-hmm. This is what these kids need to hear, especially coming from a person like him. Absolutely. And whether it was Billy or anyone else, it was always the factor of each one has to teach one. And it took over, and it became a focal point for me. That's when I said, listen, I'm gonna take you guys to State University at Purchase. I want you to see a college campus. I want you to walk around, see a dormitory, see the world. There's a world outside of the Bronx. And a lot of them took to that. Yeah. Then the schools, when we started, I went over to Talent Search, we had the schools started sending us kids who was having trouble filling out the applications, going to the colleges, helping the parents. See, that's another factor. You got to help the parents too. Some parents who came here, some of them had maybe a 3rd or 4th grade education. They can't even do their kids' homework. So we try to focus on, let's help the parent too. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword.
And that works too. I work in a school that's a college prep school. They do
good.
They do everything with the parent. They do the FAFSA.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids go to college there. You know, and it was so important, like you said about the basketball players. I have a couple of basketball players, and you know, every day I'm trying to tell them how important. You know, well, you know, in schools today, you can't really play basketball. If your grades are not up, you fail, you cannot be on the basketball team. So, you know, just how important it is to have a balance. And it's
yes.
I think one of the coaches, you might know him, is Steve Burke. I think that's his name, Burke.
Steve Burke.
Yeah.
Steve Burke. He played Fiona.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's one of the coaches, and
really,
yeah,
because his son played Fiona too.
Yeah, so just
yeah,
the balance of having academics and ball, because they practice
yes.
today, just to teaching them, like, you got to have this balance. You got to find the balance, because you can't have almost one without the other. So it's it's interesting. But I would like to, yeah, he works.
He went to the NBA too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I remember watching him on TV.
Yeah. And he's working with a basketball team on the campus that I work at. But if you could say one thing, because I always got to wrap it up too. We have a lot of people watching the show. A lot of people from Lambert, a lot of people that can make decisions, if you could say something to them as far as like the community and community outreach stuff they should have and stuff they should have, what would you say to them? What advice would you give to them?
Apply yourself. First and foremost, apply yourself. And remember, it's not just about you. It's about people who's coming behind you, because it's got a point in time you have to reach back and bring someone else along. And when you do that, you feel that self-worth, but you instill that in a young person too, that they can feel some pride in themselves, no matter where you come from. Yeah, they call it the ghetto, but a lot of us got out of there and we've done well. And I believe that you can do the same thing. It's just a matter of applying yourself and put an arm around that young person, because you don't know how much of an influence you may be on that person to point them in the right direction. As I said before, we fall down, we get up, we dust ourselves off, but we keep on going.
Mr. Roman, I thank you.
I thank you for having me on here.
I know a lot of times with me, I be overbooked, underbooked, and I thank you for having patience.
Thank you.
With me, and and I'm sure people are going to be very, very happy to see this.
Okay.
And it was a very inspiring. And you tell your friend, Mr. Adams, come see me, Miss Baker, come. I'm low on the totem pole, but he can come and sit and have an interview with me and tell me something to tell the people.
And I'll read that message to him.
Yeah, because I'm at the grassroots. Listen, I'm here with the people. People tune into my show. I have 5 shows on different networks. So, people, I'm here. I can tell him what he needs to know. I'm here. I'm working in the schools. I can tell him what's really going on now. But it would just really be interesting to have a conversation with him. I teach my coworkers all the time. They laugh at me. I'm like, I'm about to call Mr. Adams. I'm gonna call him. So when he started the plant-based thing, I was just like, oh, I'm calling Mr. Adams. Who do he think he is to do that? But the reality is, some kids had it and they were like, it's not bad, and it's just introducing them to something different. And especially in our community, when diabetes is on I'm running from diabetes every day. I'm like, no, I can't have that much sugar. I get it.
Well, that's why he started that.
Right.
Because he was a diabetic.
Right.
Yeah.
We need that because we need that. We need our community to learn about working out, about fitness. Like, that could change every single thing.
Yes, it can.
And it's not taught enough,
I agree with you. I really agree with you.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to probably already cut some stuff out. But I thank you so much, and
thank you again for having me.
I'll have you again on my show. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Thank you.
I'll be more than willing anytime you want.
For hooking you up, because this went real great getting on. So
okay.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, you have a wonderful day. Okay.
You too. Bye-bye.